a profound document. And that this document is said to hold the sum of all knowledge, the knowledge of all the universe, and can open the door to complete freedom for humanity. Furthermore, it's not a religious document. It has nothing to do with religion. But it offers an advanced formula for personal transformation and acceleration of the evolution of humanity. So what is termed the science of the soul, in reality, is called alchemy. And how many of you ever heard the term alchemy and kind of know what it is? You know, it's all about the transmutation of a base metal into gold. But the document I'm talking about really is a much deeper alchemy. That, you know, there's types and shadows. And that is a type and a shadow where they turn the base metal into gold. The reality is what's going to happen within you in alchemy. So it's really what we call alchemy, and the document was written from the first alchemist, who was the father of alchemy, and his name was Thoth. How many of you ever heard of Thoth? And I think, you know, somebody mentioned, I think Pam or somebody, Carrie mentioned him this morning. He was an Egyptian. He was credited as the author of the works of the science of numbers. Listen to what he was credited for: mathematics, geometry, medicine, botany, theology, civilized government, the alphabet, astrology, astronomy, reading, writing, and further claims that he was the true author of every work of every branch of knowledge, human and divine. So this Thoth, who came out of Egypt, or really, I'm going to get to it more, but really was the foundation. Have we ever thought, where did the alphabet come from? Where did all of these things, botany, astrology, where did they come from? And that's where, when you go back, you begin to see these things. He was viewed as a messenger of the gods, really bringing in something that was supernatural, beyond human form. He was bringing something in. And he also was credited with writing the book, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is also called the Book of Emerging Forth into Light. And I'm going to kind of bring the Bible into this too, because I came out of Bible. So I know the Bible inside, outside, and upside down. I can see on the page where the scripture is. So when I read anything, it's always popping in my mind how it correlates with the Bible. So I'm going to do a little bit of that today. But Thoth's name was then changed by the Greeks to Hermes. Same thing, attributed all the same things, but changed to Hermes. And the names were combined to be called Hermes Trismegistus. I'm probably not saying it right. Who was the father of Hermetics. And Hermetics is the basic of almost all religions. It's the basic of Christianity. It's the basic of Islam. It's the Judaism. It's the Zohar, the Kabbalah. It's the basic of almost everything is Hermetics. And Thoth the Hermes was the writer known of the document I'm going to talk about today, which is called the Emerald Tablets. I've mentioned it a few times here because I've been studying it for months now. I have tons of books. I've dreamed about it. I've meditated on it. And the Emerald Tablets is really what we call alchemy. It's this. This is the goal. It's the spiritualization and the perfection of matter through the working of the invisible fire or the life force. And it really is the underlying message of the Bible, which I've talked about many times. When Jesus goes up to the Mount of Transfiguration, he tells them, he says, some of you aren't going to die until you see the kingdom coming. And so he takes them up to this high mountain, and he turns back into light, photon energy, transmuting matter back into spirit. And that's the kingdom. What does it say? It says the kingdom of heaven is inside of us. So that's what this Emerald Tablets is all about, and it's really the underlying message of the Bible. What we see in the New Testament, and what we really see in the Old and the New Testament, is this transmuting of matter back into spirituality. That's what Jesus really showed us. He was a way shower. He was showing us how to transmute the laws of the universe that transmute us, that raise us up to higher consciousness. So alchemy was that spiritualization of matter, and it's really the underlying message of the Bible. It's really what the kingdom of heaven is. Your photon energy. We said last week, God is light, photon. Jesus said, I am light, photon. And he said, you are light, photon. You are the light of the world. So what are we all? We're these swirling atoms and molecules of photon energy. And I said last week, you think you're sitting on a chair, and I think I'm talking to a group of people. On one level, that's true. But on a deeper level, that chair is this swirling atoms and molecules. And the only reason we see it is because it's slowed down energy. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here either. So we took on these human forms, but we're really on a path. So the Bible says this too. It says our God is a consuming fire. And it's totally in sync with alchemy and what alchemy is all about, because the fire of divine life force is here to consume anything in you that's not God. So when it says God is a consuming fire, he's here to consume you, this life force. It's not a he up there with, you know, we think of God as like a puppeteer up there. I used to think about that. You know, if I wasn't doing right, you know, bong on the head, he'd give you a little bong to straighten you out. But it's not like that. It's this life force. This life force is here to burn away everything in you, and it's all about alchemy. That's the first step in alchemy, which I'm going to show you, which is the archetype of that is the sun, which embodies that first element of alchemy, and it's associated with the power above. And that's why the Egyptians, we wonder, why did they worship the sun? You know, all the ancients worshiped the sun, because it's that archetype, and it was their most important god, the sun was. Because the sun is a powerful archetype representing that life force. It really all goes back to alchemy. And it all goes back to that fire, that first part that burns away those things. And so the emerald tablets say, as above, so below. How many of us have heard that? Yeah. Do you know where it originated? It originated 36,000 years ago. 36,000 years ago in the emerald tablets. So, and what does the Bible say? I'm trying to bring a correlation. So just because I know the Bible so well, I'm going to use that Bible. So what does it say in the Lord's Prayer? It says, thy will be done on earth below as it is in heaven above. Same principle. As above, so below. You see, all of this was incorporated. The Bible is not a religious document either. You know, I've said that a few times, and we don't see the people. They don't come back after that many times because it's shocking. Because we are in a worse cycle. We have been so controlled and so indoctrinated, but we're in a worse cycle, and we're beginning to understand that truth is much deeper than we ever thought. And how many of us are living the exact life that we want to live right now, and know that there's something innately in us that's more empowering, that we can live a more empowered life, and that's where we're going right now. So as above, so below, and it all connects the chemical process described in the emerald tablets. Fire is the first process, and it's called calcination. The first process of transformation. And calcination represents the burning off of the dross of the ego, and it reveals one's soul. And how many of you, I remember, I've so many times when people first start on a spiritual path, they think everything's going to be hunky-dory, and it's going to be so nice, and then everything comes down on them. And they go, God, why did I even choose this path? How many of that happened to you? You know, all of a sudden, all your stuff begins to come up. That's because that calcination process, that process that brings that stuff up. And then I believe we go around this spiral. And the stuff comes up on a lower degree and it consumes us. And then as we continue to go up the spiral, it keeps coming up until we get rid of it. And we're able to handle it better and better all the time. But it's the fire of that divine life force that we call God, through the consuming process of calcination, is which the ego and its attachment to the material world and the illusion of self-deception, we begin to see that this world is an illusion. I had a reading from, I called that astrologer this week, and had a reading from this astrologist, and she's talking about the fifth dimension, and how we're looking at things from this third dimension, but we're raising up and beginning to see things from higher dimensional frequencies. You know, if I'm here in the parades going by, what am I seeing? I'm just seeing what's happening in the parade. But if I go to the top of the building and I can see the front and the back, the beginning and the end of everything, I can see it from a much higher dimension. And that's where we're being raised up right now. So the process of alchemy is also called the great work. And guess where it's happening? Not in metal, in you. That's the work. That's the great work. And it's that process that all humankind will go through to become gold, to become pure divine energy. And it all originated, the information about it, in the emerald tablets. And the emerald tablets contain incredible information beyond what our science even knows today. And the emerald tablets, like the Bible, studied the Bible for many years. And first you understand it on one level. And then you peel back the onion skin and you see that it's a deeper level. Like when we say Jesus took them up to the top of the mountain, he wasn't talking about a mountain. He was saying, I'm going to take you up to higher consciousness. I'm going to take you to that fifth dimensional realm. I'm going to let you see from that higher dimension what humanity is really all about. Your photon energy. So we're seeing it in layers. First you see the mountain, then you begin to see, no, it's an allegory, it's something bigger. And that's the same way the Emerald Tablets are. They contain ancient wisdom passed down through the gods. It's a supernatural. And I was weighing today whether I was going to really hit you with everything that I believe about the Emerald Tablets, but I thought, I think I'm just going to give you a little bit first. I'm going to do some classes when I get back from, I'm going to be going to Mount Shasta. When I get back, I'm going to be doing some classes, but I think these came from off-planet. I mean, that's my total opinion. This is information 36,000 years ago from a much higher dimension and a much higher mind than humanity had. And when you understand how it all transformed, it's just incredible. But it was the basic of Hermetics, and it's the retelling of the mystery schools. You know, years ago I taught the tabernacle. How many of you ever have read about the tabernacle in the Bible? I taught that all over. And now I know for sure that that was all about the mystery schools, because there was 3 dimensions in the tabernacle. The outer court, where everybody could be, humanity is, and then it was the inner court, where the holy place, where the priests went and they did the washing and they did the sacrifice and all those things to cleanse themselves, all the preparation. But then there was that 3rd chamber, and it was called the most holy place. And only the high priest could go in there once a year. And the Shekinah glory would come down, and it was God and man at one. It was that transmutation of matter. So it was all exactly. And where was Moses supposedly raised? In Egypt. So it stands to reason all of this had to do with the Egyptian mystery schools. So all of this, it's that contains ancient wisdom passed down through the gods that transform our soul. I feel, for me, this is the part of the puzzle that I didn't have, that's connecting everything. Because I'm seeing the foundation, I'm seeing where all this, the Kabbalah, the Bible, Judaism, even all of these things started with this information. And they're the basics of Hermetics. And it contains the secret of prima mater, which is the term first matter, which is the primal base of matter, similar to chaos. So I'm going to bring the Bible into this again. It refers to the formless state or void state preceding the creation of the universe. Listen to Genesis 1:2. Goes right along with what the Emerald Tablets say. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the water. So what do we see here? We see that chaos. We see that first matter before anything came. You know, in the Emerald Tablets, it talks about the one mind and the one thing. The one mind, everything comes out of the one mind, but the one thing is the things that manifest. But here we see that void, and it comes right from the Emerald Tablets. Where did the Bible get it? You know, have we ever asked, where did humanity come from? You know, where are we going as a species? You know, we're here to ask bigger questions now. Not just to eat the stuff that's been given us for, you know, century after century, but we're beginning to regurgitate that stuff because it's not going down anymore. We're not digesting that anymore. We have a new digestive system, and we want truth. We want higher energy foods, don't we, in the physical world? It's the same in the spiritual realm. We want higher energy truth that we can begin to digest this stuff. So it comes right from the Emerald Tablets. So the Emerald Tablets contain secrets of the prima mater, the first matter, and then it has the secret of how it's transmuted. And so I have read so much history about the Emerald Tablets, and I'm going to tell about a young boy, but I'm just going to give today what I want to do is just give an overview, just to whet your appetite. Get a book, start reading about it, because we're going to come together. I feel like this is really something that is going to take us to such a higher dimension. But the history of the Emerald Tablets is filled with strange things and mysticism. I've read so many stories of how they came in. Alexander the Great had them, and I'm going to tell you so many other people that had them. But the most common legend claims the tablets were found in a cave or a tomb under the statues of Hermes in Tirana. It was clutched in the hands of the corpse Hermes himself. And this young boy who was seeking knowledge, and this boy really lived, because I've read the whole story, began to go under, you know, they showed where the tablets were, and he began to go over, and it was so dark he couldn't go under. And so Hermes supposedly told him to put a light in a jar, which he did, and because the winds were so big, and he'd be able to go under there and get them. And some believe that the tablets were held in the Ark of the Covenant, and others say that they came from Atlantis. My own opinion, they came from Atlantis. I think Atlantis had a lot to do with this. And the tablets are emerald green, and we're going to show a picture of them. Just so you, as I talk, you can take a look at them. I have this amazing tailor back there that can do anything that I can't do, and she can get those up. So anyway, and they're said to be inscribed with the secrets of the whole universe on them. Can we get them up?
It should be, it needs to come up.
Does that have to warm up? Anyway, I'll just keep talking. In the tablets it says that Thoth raised the people of Chem, ancient Egypt, and came for a great civilization. One of the things that I think is real interesting, how many of you know that there's a missing link? That the cavemen, the barbarians, there's always been this missing link in the evolution of humanity, and they haven't been able to figure it out. There it is. That's just a picture of one of the emerald tablets. But anyway, and what it says is when the people, these hairy barbarians, were living in caves, that Thoth came and began to create this great civilization. And when it was time for him to leave Egypt, he erected the Great Pyramid. He said that he's the one that erected the Great Pyramid. And you know, to this day, the mystery of the pyramid still can't be understood. They cannot understand how they got those heavy stones with the capstone on. And Thoth said he created it because he erected it over what was called the Great Halls of Amenti. And he lived for thousands and thousands of years, and he would go down to these halls of Amenti and every 100 years and renew his life. It's all about things way beyond what we've ever understood in the tablets. But when you begin to read them, and I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, they molecularly, they do something to you. When you hear them aloud, there's a rhythm to them. There's a frequency to them that begins to change. I told you about the experience I had at the beach recently where I came up out of my body and kind of had a kundalini experience where in an etheric realm I felt this vibration go through me. And it was as I'm studying these emerald tablets and meditating on them and thinking about them and dreaming about them, I started with a dream that I saw them under my bed. And Spirit said for me to go under and get these emerald tablets, and that is what made me start studying them. But what's interesting is that, listen to this, Edgar Cayce gave the specific location of those halls of Amenti in Egypt. He said they were between the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And he also gave specific instructions how to access them by going through the paw of one of the sphinxes. But the government of Egypt would not give permission because it keeps all of this stuff very, very secret. But I read also an article recently about the guy that produced Star Wars. And he was in Egypt doing a documentary on the pyramid and the Sphinx and all of that. And while he was filming, they did this above-ground scanning for hidden chambers. In fact, I think it was in, I don't know if it was in Newsweek, I can't remember, but it was in a magazine talking about that they found the exact location where Cayce said that the halls of Amenti were. They found that underground channel, that underground room. But the thing is, he went to the government of Egypt and he said, you know, I want to do an archaeological dig, you know, and he tried to get permission. He said it's impossible. They won't let anybody disturb the Sphinx or disturb the pyramid. So he said it was impossible to do, but they did see through this, through this scanning that there is hidden chambers underneath the pyramid. So I think as the world evolves, we're going to see, especially things that the Emerald Tablet talk about, we're going to see the reality of those things really come to us. But it's like, another thing I see so clearly too is things come to humanity at perfect timing. You know, the Mayan calendar came in the 1940s. I don't think they come until our consciousness has been raised enough that we can, understand these things. And for me, these Emerald Tablets have come on the scene now, and it's like, it's just a fire within me that's sparking everything else. So it remains a mystery if there is something under the pyramid, but they did see this room. And Thoth was defined as the god of wisdom and the recorder. And according to the Emerald Tablets, the spirit of Thoth passed into other bodies in a manner described in the tablets. So he lived for a very, very long time, but then it said that his spirit would pass into other bodies. So I asked the question myself, could it be that he was Osiris, Dionysus, Attis, all of these godmen, Jesus? That spirit, that same message, that same story just began to pass into other bodies? Because it's only one story. You know, years ago I was reading the book of Revelation, And the Spirit said to me, there's only one revelation. And I went back and I thought, yeah, it's not revelations. It's revelation. And the whole revelation is divinity within us. That we are God. That's the revelation. That book of Revelation is taking the 7 seals, the chakras, opening your chakras, opening the veils, opening up all those centers within us that we can fully realize and be fully realized as divine essence. So, I mean, you know, probably if I read these emerald tablets years ago, I would have gone, yeah, right. But now I'm reading them and I'm seeing all of these God-men same story, all of these myths, all of these legends, you know, totally the same. Could it be? Could it be that something so much bigger than our human minds, you know, can comprehend has happened on planet Earth? And you know, how many of you watch Ancient Aliens now? You know, I have friends that aren't even in the spiritual realm that are watching Ancient Aliens. And there's so much proof. There's so much proof. Do we think that we, this little speck of dust in this big cosmos, are the only ones that have life? Or do we know that something's happening right now? And we're, you know, the Mayan calendar is all about that 9th wave, and it's a universal cosmic wave. Not just global consciousness. It's cosmic consciousness that we're going to be connecting to brothers and sisters all over the universe. So you and I are today, or in this age of Aquarius. And I want to see. I want to read this because Thoth also said he left these emerald tablets for those of a future age of light. And I believe this age of Aquarius is that age. He left those for us. Just like the Mayan calendar was left in the 40s. For us. All of the accumulated, you know, the Bible says this, in the end of time, as time begins to be swallowed up, knowledge is going to be increased. And that's what we're seeing today. I mean, it's like we're bombarded with so much. Look what Carrie's doing. I mean, she's stepping into another realm. What she's talking about today is not what the norm of what people are doing. But she's stepping into another realm. We're all stepping into other realms right now. So you and I today are in this age of Aquarius. So his writings are for us, for you and I. That's why I want to get a group together and begin studying these and hearing them. And I'm going to talk about them a little bit more. But his writings consist of 12 tablets formed from a substance created from an alchemical transmutation. And they're imperishable, resistant to all elements, all corrosion and acid. And on them are engraved these characters, which respond, now listen, they respond to the attuned thought waves of the reader and release wisdom that's innate within all of us. So as you hear these things aloud, they begin to do something, and they begin to activate portals within you that begin to release that wisdom and knowledge that's already in you. Phenomenal. They are created in a rhythmic way that causes a mental frequency when you hear them. So it's some kind of rhythmic way when they're done. And according to the tables, it triggers a conscious movement in your soul that opens portals of wisdom and understanding. So just reading them aloud or listening to them aloud on the internet, which you can get right on the internet, on YouTube, and begin to listen to them, it does something to the consciousness. It has a frequency, just like Sanskrit. You know, Sanskrit words, when we do chants and things like that, there's a frequency that does something. I went to see Diva Paral many years ago. And she was, you know, I was listening. It's the first time I had really gone to hear somebody do long chanting. And she was chanting about peace. And all of a sudden, I had closed my eyes and I became peace. It was like the frequency in me. I had never experienced anything. It wasn't something outside of me anymore I was listening to. I became peace. And you can't explain it to anybody. You have to experience it. But those chants, those Sanskrits, there's a frequency to those things that changes everything. So they're said to hold the secrets of the universe and the great key to alchemy. And they were the foundation of the ancient Egyptian mystery school, and those allowed to receive those mysteries down to the ages. I want to tell you some of the people that studied the Emerald Tablets. They're the who's who of world changers. And you're going to see that. They really are. They're the movers and shakers of our world that have studied them. It was people like Pythagoras, who was the first great mathematician and scientist. Plato, one of the most influential figures in the Western philosophy, a great mathematician. These are people you've all heard of, because they're people that changed our world by the knowledge that they brought in. And where did they get that knowledge? Aristotle, famous great philosopher, polymath, studied student of Plato, and went on to become the teacher of Alexander the Great, who also studied the Emerald Tablets. And they said at one time in Alexandria, the Emerald Tablets were put out for people to view. I read about that too in Alexandria. So Alexander the Great also studied these. His works, Alexander the Great, this Aristotle was science, metaphysics, morality, politics, poli-science, physics. All of these great men in Greece and in Egypt that brought all this knowledge in. You go back and they all have a connection to the Emerald Tablets in some way. It's just phenomenal. How about Galileo, who played a major role in the scientific revolution of the 17th century? He was an astronomer, a physicist, an engineer, a philosopher, a mathematician. Da Vinci, how many of you wrote the Da Vinci Code? How all of his paintings, he was painting and sculptures, how all of his paintings, remember the paintings he had of the man standing with his arms out, how all of these secret things. One of the greatest painters of our time, and he was considered a universal genius. And another was Isaac Newton, an English physicist, the mathematician who did the law of gravitation. But the more I read about Isaac Newton, he was a famous scientist, but you know what he did almost all of his life? He studied alchemy. He would shut himself up. I was reading from one of his people that worked for him. He would shut himself up months at a time, studying the Emerald Tablets and studying alchemy. And his greatest work was in alchemy and not mathematics or physics. And he kept his work a secret, and his papers were rediscovered in the 20th century. And the lead scholars now believe he was innately an alchemist and not a mathematician. So we always think of him as a mathematician, but he was really delving into the secrets of the universe through the Emerald Tablets and through alchemy. He even did an interpretation. You can get online. He has an interpretation of the Emerald Tablets, which is phenomenal. So what I've learned is the greatest minds of our world have studied and applied these principles of the Emerald Tablets. And they've become the greatest world changers down through history. And what are we here for today? We're here to really first change ourselves, to do that alchemy within ourselves, and then share it with others and help the world to be changed. And I believe these Emerald Tablets, when we really get into them and really internalize them, are going to be world changing. And I believe it's something just like, it's like a Mayan calendar, how that just spread like wildfire through the spiritual community. When I was teaching that around, I mean, people were so hungry to hear about it. It's going to be the same with these Emerald Tablets. Their life consciousness changing. For me, these tablets are the missing link, and they connect all the myths, the legends, the tablets, the religion. Everything I've studied really always goes back right to those Emerald Tablets. I can look at the scriptures in the Bible now after reading the Emerald Tablets. I see where so much of that came from. And another thing is that, like the Bible, it takes meditation. And they're deep secrets. They're not something you're going to read one time and say, I got it. Oh yeah, I got it. No, it takes deep study. It takes meditation. It takes listening to them. Because they're deep, deep, etheric secrets that are being revealed to us. But I feel they already have shifted my consciousness in a profound way. And I also feel that they're being revealed to humanity at the perfect time to awaken and transform all of us. We're here at a pivotal time in history. There's never been a group of people like you. Really, never been a group of people like you. And we might look small today, but there's a purpose we're coming together. As we bring our consciousness together, as we begin to learn these things together, we begin to apply them in our lives, and we set our mind on them, and we meditate about them, it's going to transform everything in our lives. And it's so exciting to grow together, like Pam's song said. We are growing together, because I'm sharing with you as I'm learning things. But you also share with me all the time. And I think we're being brought together. You know, I feel like we're creating deeper relationships than ever before. There's so many people in my life I love right now. And I feel like so close to, because we're taking those veils down. You know, it says a time when that we're going to be naked, which means transparent and no longer ashamed. That we don't have to put on these faces anymore, but we can be real with one another. And know that we're not in competition, but we're here to support one another. What I do, you can't do. Or whatever you do, I can't do. We're here as unique expressions of divinity. That's why I honor Patty, what she does, what Carrie does, what Pam does, what all of you do, because we're that unique expression. And if we could see that, And if we could really see our connectedness, can you imagine what world would be like if I knew I was you and you were me? What would it be like? It would be a new world, and that's where we're stepping right now. We're stepping into things that the whole universe is bringing to us right now to transmute everything we are. That what the universe and what it's groaning for, humanity is groaning for, can really come on the scene. And what it is you and that divinity within you. And so it is.